You start with the zone of proximal development. You're talking about a situation where a teacher, perhaps, or maybe an older brother or sister or somebody who knows something is trying to teach something to somebody else who presumably wants to learn what the teacher has to teach. For Vygotsky, the central concept is the mediation of human action through various kinds of cultural means. Reading, writing, arithmetic systems, using what became the internet as a mediating tool for conducting distance learning classes and so on. As Vygotsky characterized it, there are three approaches to the relationship between teaching learning as an activity and the development of academic concepts, of concepts in general, but academic concepts in particular. The first was that, and most popular and remains popular, is the theory of Jean Piaget. And for Piaget, very famously, you couldn't teach, you wanted to avoid trying to teach children before they were conceptually ready to understand what it was you were trying to teach them. So first they had to develop a level of understanding that would make instruction possible. For teachers, it was a sort of discouraging, because what were they supposed to do to try to promote the children's understanding in the class if you had to wait for the kids to understand before you could, in a sense, before you could start to teach them? At least that's the way it was very often interpreted. On the other hand, you had people who believed that, well, all development is just the accumulation of lots of different kinds of learning. And as learning accumulates, you get a more and more developed understanding of the topic. And that he referred to the Americans' research on development as literally the American problem of trying to constantly speed up development. And for Vygotsky, he wanted to sort of talk about the possibility that there really is development in the sense of increased general understanding of certain kinds of concepts and certain kinds of ways of doing things, not just particular habits. So he believed in developmental stages. He didn't think about them quite the same way that Piaget did. But he believed that it was possible to organize environments such that the teaching learning process could promote deeper, broader developmental change. And I think that idea of how to create a zone, it's a spatial metaphor, but it's also a temporal metaphor. But how could you create a sort of the place in Vygotsky's view where you're not waiting for the mature plant, but you're trying to promote the development of the seedlings that are just beginning to develop? How can you promote that development through changing the environment? And that's what you try to do, is to organize an environment that invites the learning and development of the child, that beckons the child to something attractive in the next stage. And that process is not a linear process, and it makes evaluation of where the child is really difficult.